If you live anywhere with hills or suburbs or just a lot of traffic, you have definitely seen the e-bike revolution.
Oh, absolutely.
But today, we are doing a deep dive into one specific flashpoint, Marin County, California. It's a place where this promise of innovation and youth freedom really collided head-on with a terrifying public safety crisis.
That's right. This is really a story about what happens when technology just completely outpaces regulation. We're going to unpack how this explosion in e-bike use, a huge spike in severe accidents among kids, and one single life-altering crash, how that all led to first in California legislation.
It sounds like Marin County basically had to redefine what a bicycle even is anymore.
They did. And our sources really highlight this core tension. You've got your legal pedal-assist e-bikes, the ones commuters use, which are great, but then you have these other things, overpowered devices that are essentially e-motorcycles being sold to teens.
And they were exploiting some kind of loophole to do it.
Every loophole available. And that regulatory gray area created a real public health emergency. I mean, to give you a sense of the scale, let's just start with the number that really shocked everyone in Marin.
Okay.
They saw a 110% rise in youth cycling accidents.
Wow, 110%.
Yes, just between 2019 and 2022. It's a massive, massive jump. And it's driven almost entirely by, kids getting these powerful new e-bikes.
And there's an even more specific statistic that's, well, it's pretty chilling. When officials dug into that data, the accident rate for 10 to 15-year-olds on e-bikes was 5 times higher than for every other age group combined.
5 times. So they aren't just crashing more. The consequences are catastrophic.
Right.
And, while that data was setting off alarm bells, regulatory change. It rarely happens just because of numbers. It almost always takes a specific, undeniable human story to really force political action.
And in Marin, that story belongs to Amelia Stafford.
It does. Amelia was a 16-year-old student. Back in 2024, she had a terrible crash while she was riding her Class 2 throttle e-bike. And the severity of that crash is what just elevated this whole issue from, a traffic problem to a public health crisis.
The injuries were that bad.
They were nothing like a typical bike fall. She had a very serious, life-threatening head injury. It required immediate emergency surgery just to save her life.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And after that, her recovery involved 6 weeks in the ICU, and then 3 months total in the hospital. When you hear that, you realize, okay, we're not talking about a bike accident. This is high-speed vehicle trauma.
You said she was on a Class 2 throttle e-bike. Let's pause on that. What does the throttle part really mean in this context, especially for a teenager?
It means instant power with zero effort. So think of a moped or a motorcycle. You just twist the grip and you go. You don't have to pedal at all.
So it doesn't require any real bicycling skill to get up to top speed?
None. Just the will to turn a dial. And it was Amelia's story, her personal tragedy, that became the real emotional driver for this legislative change. She couldn't attend the Board of Supervisors meeting herself, but her mother, Monica, was there to read a message from her.
And what was the core of that testimony? What did she say?
It was incredibly powerful. It just cut through all the jargon and the debates. Amelia basically urged them to put safety first. She said, I know there are questions about how this law will be enforced, but what matters most is that it sends a clear message. Kids' safety comes first.
And that sentiment was immediately backed up by health officials.
Immediately. Dr. Matt Willis, the county's public health director, he confirmed it. He said the injuries they were seeing were, and I'm quoting here, much more akin to what we'd see in vehicle or motorcycle accidents with internal bleeding and long-lasting injuries.
So the data was there all along. The accident rate for middle schoolers, the kids most likely to have these throttle bikes, is 5 times higher than anyone else.
Exactly. It's just a disastrous equation. The physics of speed and weight combined with an inexperienced young rider.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's get to the root of why these accidents are so severe. If these things are being sold and labeled as e-bikes, how are they causing motorcycle-level injuries?
It all comes down to the classification system and a really cynical regulatory loophole.
All right, so break down the classes for us. What are we talking about?
Okay, so in California, Class 1 is the most basic. It's pedal assist only, meaning the motor only helps when you're pedaling, and it cuts out at 20 miles per hour. No minimum age.
Got it. Then there's Class 3.
Right. Class 3 is also pedal assist, but it's faster. It goes up to 28 miles per hour. So because of that extra speed, state law already says you have to be 16 or older to ride one.
But the one at the center of this, the one Marin is targeting, is Class 2.
Exactly. And Class 2 is the throttle bike. You don't have to pedal. Now, they are labeled to top out at 20 miles per hour, and there's no state age restriction. And this is the sweet spot for manufacturers who are aiming right at the youth market.
So here's the key question. If they're supposed to pop out at 20, where are kids getting 40, even 50 miles an hour of speed from? And that is the regulatory scandal, really. Manufacturers, like the popular Super 73 or Sauron brands, they design these bikes to be incredibly powerful machines. They are, for all intents and purposes, electric motorcycles capable of 40 to 55 miles per hour.
But they sell them as e-bikes to get around all the Department of Transportation rules, right? No licensing, no registration.
Precisely. They get away with it by installing a simple limiter. It might be a jumper wire or just a software setting that caps the speed at 20, but they are sold with instructions, or you can find them online in 2 seconds on how to remove that limiter. They call it de-restricting the bike.
So you buy a bike that's legally capped at 20, but everyone involved, the maker, the seller, the buyer, knows that a 5-minute tweak turns it into a high-speed vehicle.
Yes, and the pedals on some of these things are, they're almost a joke. They're just there to maintain the legal fiction that this isn't a motorcycle. Let's talk about the power itself. The legal limit is 750 watts. What does that actually feel like?
Well, 750 watts is about 1 horsepower. To put that in perspective, a professional cyclist in the Tour de France might peak at around 650 watts in an all-out sprint.
So a kid has a machine that can sustain more power than a world-class athlete instantly, just with a twist of their wrist.
Exactly. And that's why critics in the industry say the regulations are focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on speed, which is easy to hack.
They should be focused on power, on the wattage.
That's the argument. If you cap the wattage lower, say 500 watts for a Class 2, it would be a much harder and more expensive modification for a user to get around. But the 750-watt limit is so high, it lets them build these incredibly powerful motors.
And it's not just the speed. The weight of these things is another huge risk factor. A normal bike is maybe 20, 30 pounds.
Right. These de-restricted bikes can weigh 80, 100, even 120 pounds. And one of our sources pointed out the terrifying physics of that. You have a 100-pound 12-year-old on a 100-pound machine.
Going 45 miles an hour.
Yeah. Hitting an obstacle or, God forbid, a pedestrian. The momentum is just massive. It's an amount of force that a child simply doesn't have the body mass or experience to control. One supervisor called them more machine than young students can handle.
Which seems like a perfect summary.
It is. So, faced with this, Marin County realized they couldn't wait for the federal government to close these loopholes. That could take years. They had to act locally.
And they pivoted from trying to regulate the machine, which was failing, to regulating the user.
That was the key insight. In April of 2025, the Marin County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously, 4-0, to ban Class 2 throttle e-bikes for anyone under 16.
So they just set a hard age limit.
A hard age limit, effective July 1st. It makes Marin the very first county in California to do this for throttle bikes. And they threw in a helmet mandate for all Class 2 riders of any age.
Now, they couldn't just do this on their own. They needed support from the state, which came in the form of Assembly Bill 1778.
Yes, and AB 1778 was directly prompted by Amelia Stafford's crash. It's the bill that gives Marin and other jurisdictions the legal teeth to actually enforce these tougher local rules. And it's had huge bipartisan support. It just sailed through the assembly.
What's really fascinating here is the coordination. It wasn't just one town. They wanted this to be a county-wide rule before the next school year.
That was the only way it would work. We saw Tiburon, Mill Valley, Corte Madera, San Anselmo. They all passed the exact same ordinance almost immediately. The goal is to have a uniform enforcement zone so a kid can't just ride across the street to a different town where the rules are different.
But it seems like they're trying to strike a balance. They're cracking down on these high-speed youth bikes, but not on e-bikes in general.
No, not at all. You see that with other local efforts, like with the Marin Water District. They're actually moving ahead with pilot programs to allow the safe Class 1 pedal-assist bikes on watershed roads, so they're trying to encourage the responsible use of e-bikes while cracking down on the dangerous ones.
And of course, a new law is pretty useless if nobody knows about it. So they launched a big education campaign.
Yeah, the e-bikers club. This was a really smart part of the rollout. They used teen focus groups to design it so it wouldn't sound like a lecture from a parent.
Right.
So it's animated videos, posters, stickers, a whole safety pledge. It's all designed to make the new rules feel, a little cooler and get the kids on board. It also fulfills a requirement of AB 1778 to run a public info campaign before they can start enforcing the law.
Okay, so we have the law, we have the education. Now for the biggest question of all. How do you actually enforce this?
And that is the billion-dollar question. Officials are being pretty honest about how hard this is going to be. The California Highway Patrol, for example, has already said they won't pull over a young cyclist just for being on a Class 2 bike.
They have to commit another offense first.
Exactly, like running a stop sign or not wearing a helmet. Then they can address the bike issue.
And the penalty itself is, I mean, it's hardly a deterrent. It's a $25 fine.
$25, it's nothing. One young rider was even quoted saying he and his friends would probably just keep riding their bikes anyway, which, could lead to an even more dangerous situation where kids try to run from the police to avoid a ticket.
So if the fine is tiny and the police aren't actively pulling kids over, how is this new age ban the effective enforcement tool that all the police chiefs were asking for?
This is the really clever part. This is how they get around the loophole. The new ordinance applies the minimum age to any device that has a Class 2 e-bike label on it.
Oh, I see. So the officer doesn't need to be a tech expert. They don't have to check for a missing wire or hacked software.
Yep.
They just have to see a kid who looks under 16 riding a bike that has that Class 2 sticker on the frame.
Oh, right.
And all these bikes are sold with that sticker.
Precisely. They are targeting the label itself, and it puts the manufacturers and the parents in a box. The manufacturer can't just take the label off without admitting their device is actually an electric motorcycle.
Which would then subject them to a whole world of DMV regulations, licensing, insurance, everything they're trying to avoid.
Exactly. So the ultimate goal isn't really to write a bunch of tickets. It's to stop parents from buying a Class 2 throttle bike for their kid in the first place. It makes the device itself illegal for that age group, no matter how fast it can actually go. It just sidesteps that whole technical mess.
It's a very localized, very aggressive response. We should probably mention, though, that not all the national data looks like Marin's.
That's a fair point. Our sources did mention that some nationwide ER data shows that e-bike patients are often more likely to be over 50 than they are to be children.
So nationally, it's more of an older adult issue.
In terms of frequency, yes. But Marin's crisis is all about the severity and the frequency in one specific vulnerable group. Middle schoolers on these overpowered, modified throttle bikes. Their problem isn't about e-bikes as transportation. It's about e-bikes as high-performance toys that kids just aren't ready for.
So this has been a real deep dive into what happens when hackable tech forces regulators to play catch-up. And you can just draw a straight line from Amelia Stafford's devastating injury to this coordinated county-wide response that cleverly targets the device's label to close those loopholes.
It's true. A few manufacturers figured out how to build a machine that is legally a bicycle, but mechanically a motorcycle. And it created this incredibly dangerous gap that our old vehicle codes just couldn't handle. Marin's response is really a pretty elegant solution to a very messy problem.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to think about. If Marin County's model proves to be effective, if it succeeds by restricting access to all Class 2 labeled bikes for young people, and in doing so it bypasses that endless chase of trying to regulate technical speed limits, could this age-based, label-focused strategy become the new national standard for managing this powerful next generation of personal transportation?
It really might be the only way to regulate technology that's been specifically designed to be unregulated.